Well, it was deja vu all over again.
The competition for the most egregious tautology is hotting up. I'll just repeat again, Channel 9's entry.
Well, it was deja vu all over again.
Now that's going to prove hard to beat. Good evening. And from the Gold Coast Bulletin, a headline about aircraft noise and compensation to landowners.
Jets din zone compo aid bid.
That's what I call journalism. Next, an oxymoron from the Herald Sun.
Dead Grand's Life of Fear.
And sub-editorial incompetence from the West Australian.
Metworst killed 151, inquest told.
Wrong by a margin of 150. A bold assertion from the Queanbeyan Age.
There are no corrupt police officers operating in the Queanbeyan Police District.
Most reassuring. The Courier Mail, whose slogan is
Everything for Queensland.
Proved they meant that on Wednesday by Jingo.
Is there anything a Queenslander can't do?
The answer, so far as the newspaper goes, is yes, spell. Also from the Courier Mail, this promotion of
Handel's Messiah.
You should see how they spell Bach. Well, it's been another big week of media news. The Fairfax Herald has a new editor, John Lyons.
A former correspondent for the Herald and the Australian in Canberra, New York and Washington, he began his career on the Melbourne Herald in 1980.
Something less than 15 years journalism, perhaps not indicative of the clout that the Sydney paper needs so badly, but we can only wait and see. The Canberra Times has dumped Michelle Grattan as editor.
My aim, frequently stated, with the Canberra Times has been to produce a city-based paper that is nationally noticed.
Her employer, on the other hand, wanted
a more city-based mass paper.
I've no idea what the difference is. It seems one of Ms. Grattan's problems was
being overqualified,
which seems to say much more about the paper's proprietor than it does about her. Her successor, Jack Waterford, is also more highly qualified than a journalist needs to be. But it's a qualification he doesn't use. He just
claims the Australasian record, 16 years, from start to finish of a law degree.
I wonder what checking he did in New Zealand before making that claim to fame. At the Australian, Chris Mitchell has moved out, replaced by his deputy editor, Malcolm Schmidtke. Mitchell will go to the Courier Mail as editor-in-chief. It'd be nice to think his successor could cure the tendencies of the Australian's resident apologist for the Suharto regime, Greg Sheridan. On Thursday, under the offensive headline,
Just Reward for Jakarta's Humanitarian,
Sheridan was at it again, toadying about Mr. Ali Alatas.
He is the perfect foreign minister for Indonesia. He is the most credible and acceptable face Indonesia can present to the world.
And phooey to the bleeding hearts who want to bring up East Timor and West Papua.
Some human rights activists might be upset about Australia giving the award, but Alatas has been a voice for moderation, tolerance and humanity.
How is Rupert's bid for the Indonesian satellite going anyhow? Chris Mitchell won't be the only change of the Courier Mail. Both the editor-in-chief and editor have been replaced. At least it provides an opportunity for the Brisbane paper, ill-served by the absence of external or internal challenge, to overcome the incompetence that leads to this sort of thing.
Angelo Vasta, an international group of jurists, say his sacking as a Supreme Court judge was unfair and that he should be reinstated to the bench.
Well, I hardly know where to start with this.
Exclusive by James Woods, legal reporter.
It wasn't.
An international group of jurists.
But, in fact, the Australian section of the International Commission of Jurists. And the ICJ did not say
that he should be reinstated to the bench.
The draft report, and that's all it was at that stage, actually said
it is not for the ICJ to recommend that Mr. Vasta be reappointed. Rather, that is a matter for executive determination.
The paper can only improve. Changes at ABC TV too, which the Oz thought to be of such note that they dominated the front page.
The ABC's Director of Television, Mr. Paddy Conroy, was forced to resign late yesterday in the face of strong board unrest over a scathing report.
Reports are always scathing, aren't they? James Woods said it too.
A scathing report by the International Commission of Jurists.
And now it's Errol Simper.
A scathing report indicating the national broadcaster has accepted covert advertising and sponsorship.
Mr. Conroy's send-off, roasted peanuts and light beer, probably wasn't quite up to the opulence marking the latest parting of Bruce Gyngell from the Packer network.
Kerry Packer spent quite a few bob last night, but Bruce Gyngell and his executive staff have given him quite a few back. And although we may whinge from time to time, if you've ever turned on a television overseas, you'll agree with Bruce Gyngell when he says,
I think the television served to the Australian public is without a doubt the best in the world.
Including Andorra. Where else in the world, for example, would you see one tycoon, Rupert, interviewed on another tycoon's, Kerry's, network, with the questions predominantly about what the first tycoon thinks of the second?
Well, he has recently chosen to headbutt the Prime Minister on television. What do you make of that from where you sit? You say, friend, perhaps. He said some pretty unfriendly things about you and your involvement with Telecom in the pay TV venture.
Sometimes it was he with a capital H, sometimes it was him, still with the capital.
How did you interpret, you know him very well, how did you interpret his public outburst against the Prime Minister and to some extent against you?
But Miss Vent's adherence to the peculiar brown-nosing that so distinguishes Packer employees, père et fils, was at its most grating when she alluded to some remote Packer camp, as if she weren't Brown Owl.
Well, the claim that the Packer camp makes is that while Telecom, and therefore the taxpayer, is spending billions of dollars laying these cables, you're paying some nominal rent for the use of it. Well, the Packer camp now maintains that suddenly everything is going your way. Every major decision that's made in Canberra is Murdoch's way. Well, let me tell you what the Packer camp says, that, for instance, you have successfully lobbied the government to change airline policy here. But this is what is being said in the Packer camp, that you actually managed to influence the government.
Well, you're sitting there just repeating all these lies.
They are lies?
Of course they're lies.
He has a point. Now, this week's quality control product recall from ABC TV News and Current Affairs. Another consequence of the illustration imperative. It's from yet another story about greenhouse gas emissions.
There is a lot of debate about the cost. You can bet that industry and the Green Movement will be awaiting the Cabinet decision with great interest.
Cooling towers, that's what these are, emit water vapour, which is not a greenhouse gas at all. That was Tuesday. On Wednesday, they did it again.
Australia was one of the first countries to sign the Convention on Climate Change, the government priding itself on its leading role in reducing greenhouse gases.
Not just once, either.
But the government says it is serious and believes the package will help tackle the greenhouse challenge.
But nowhere was media excess more obvious than in coverage of the Rolling Stones on tour. The Fairfax Herald kicked it all off with Susan Chenery's preview from Tokyo, a colour piece in which women were accessories amid the Gothic.
A room lit only by candles. Incense burning, flowers strewn across tables, candles flickering across silver tureens filled with food, blondes, bottles decorked, small children running, laughter.
Next day it was the Sunday Age telling us things we didn't need to know.
Mick is great on acid.
Wrote former girlfriend Marianne Faithfull.
He sheds his facade.
Leaving nothing, obviously. The Australian, as the time came closer, surrendered a whole 4 pages, 2 of them chronicling the ageing process and the drug convictions, while the Age squeezed 4 front pages out of the Melbourne concert. It's just another cringe, really. The building of the stage, next day further progress on the building work, and Glenn A. Baker's piece, with Keith Richards and his tiresome drug boasts.
One of your girls who dropped some acid on me during what I think was a 15-hour flight from Perth to Sydney. But I did check the tape the next day and I played damn good.
Another front page for the great day of arrival. Even a guide to where you might catch sight of them.
Chapel Street.
If they shop, we're told this is where they'll shop.
The Age, Sunday Age grovel left the Brisbane Sunday Mail a long way behind, particularly when they ran this picture of the band's arrival. Sadly, a 30-year-old photograph just about, featuring an airline name and a musician, both of which have ceased to exist. Back to the Age for another front page.
Many members of the press were easily on the wrong side of 40.
What? And still working. One on the right side of geriatricity was Channel 10's Angela Bishop.
Every band member was true to form. Drummer Charlie Watts had his usual lengthy response to how the tour is going.
Bloody hard work for that.
And taking its toll, apparently. Sevens, Today Tonight, which wants us to take it seriously, got historic.
Comrade, it's been said that you have banned the Rolling Stones.
This is Gough Whitlam said this to you.
That's Gough Whitlam himself.
Al Grasby, one of those politicians we are said to deserve. Sure, he didn't have to do it, but they didn't have to show it either, did they? Channel 9, less resourceful, settled for the band's cook.
And found the answer with Debbie, their chef, that tours the world with them.
Keith likes shepherd's pie and he has it every night that he does a show.
And the hotel doorman.
And Jerry the doorman. Can you tell me if the Stones are good clientele?
They are.
They are? They are tippers?
Yes, they are.
Any little bits of dirt you might be able to tell me?
Oh, just read The Age, where Paul Heinrich sought to explain the significance of the band.
No catharsis could take place without diving into the uncivilised stuff we kept in hidden recesses.
Catharsis? The shepherd's pie must have been off. And the concert itself? Well, in the Australian, Lyndon Barber indulged in a nice piece of hypocrisy. The show was boring, and some songs were variously
Murdered.
and...
Perfunctory.
And why?
Media overkill.
Changes on the High Court were less important even to our quality media. SBS botched it.
High Court Judge Sir Gerard Brennan will become Chief Justice, with Federal Court Justice William Gummow filling Sir Gerard's place on the High Court bench.
Memo SBS. The Chief Justice actually is a member of the High Court bench. And Paddy McGuinness, the more they pay him, the more idiosyncratic he gets.
The appointment of Justice Brennan as the Chief Justice of the High Court of Australia needs little comment.
Which McGuinness followed with 1,000 words of comment, including this nonsense about Justice Gummow.
His career as a frequent advocate for government in the courts might suggest that he would be inclined to support existing doctrine that the Commonwealth Parliament does have the power to make retrospective laws.
It's just as well His Honour didn't do any criminal defences, or Paddy might suggest he's in favour of murder. Good night to you.
Tonight, join Maxine McHugh and Max Walsh for the latest news and issues from the world of business and personal investment. Don't miss The Bottom Line tonight at 10:35. Shortly on ABC, Bottom.